What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content. And a thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Once again, big shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the video. Let's talk about the Dolphins. So, a lot of things are happening in Miami right now. As always, it's confusing. Let's be honest. There's a lot of reports, information is going left and right. We hear one thing today, something else tomorrow. Right now, Coach McDaniel is the coach. Confirmed. We are currently looking for a GM, also confirmed. The idea has been Coach McDaniel is helping look for the GM, so he's part of the long-term future. We've all kind of agreed to that situation. Apparently, not quite the case, right? According to Diana Rossini, part of what the Dolphins are doing is when they're interviewing GMs, they're asking them, hey, how do you feel about Coach McDaniel? And if you don't want to ride with him, what are your thoughts on a new coach coming in? This is what she had to say specifically. She said, the Dolphins have met with several GM candidates, and while conversations about a Miami future that includes Miami Daniel are taking place, I'm told decision makers have been pushing in interviews to hear candidates' thoughts on a new head coach as well. That's wild to me. It's like, hey, this guy is here, kinda. But how do you feel about somebody else? I maybe this is how this is always done. I don't know. It feels odd. It feels a little dysfunctional. This also feels like a slow divorce in a weird way, and I'm not liking the feeling of this. Right? We've had the issue with tampering before between GMs and coaches and all that. We had the Tom Brady tampering for quarterback thing. We've dabbled in not doing this the right way. It seems like the team is trying to be more transparent this time, which is cool. But I don't know where Coach McDaniel feels in this situation because there's 6 openings now, and it could be a couple more coming out. He, I think, would possibly be in line to get another job if he were let go. So is he like, how do you feel being in limbo? Because I would be like, hey, man, I'm kind of a good candidate right now. Like, people are looking at Cliff Kingsbury and other guys who are just offensive-minded dudes who haven't coached before. Like, well, I've been a pretty solid coach considering all things. And I don't know if this is, because there's been reporting also that if they go with someone from San Francisco, we have 3 San Francisco GM candidates that they're likely to keep McDaniel because they know him. They know the system works. They know they can work with him as a person. And they don't want it to look like a sham GM search where it's like, let's bring all these people, put it all on the table, but then ultimately hire the person we know that can work with the coach. That's like, they don't want that perceived impropriety. But I'm like, who are you trying to impress? Who cares if it is a sham? I mean, the league won't, you going through the process. As long as you go through the process, the league's going to dock you picks because you kind of knew you wanted this guy from San Francisco and you hired him. When San Francisco hired John Lynch, go look at how that situation went down. John Lynch had done nothing remotely close to that. And it was like, oh, he's our GM. And we were like, what? He's been very good at his job, but it didn't feel the most kosher. I think there was some stuff going on behind the scenes. I think an agreement was already made ahead of time, went through the search, and then he got picked for the job. I think that's actually how it goes a lot of times. I don't know if Miami knows who their ideal GM is. So I do think some of this is organic and some of this is legitimate. We don't know who we want. We don't know what direction we want to go in. We know where we're going now, not working. So come in, bring your ideas. We'll see what we can do. But this is a very fluid situation. It's going to get messier before it gets cleaner. And we're going to just be along for the ride. Now, I've also reported, as of the last couple of days, that John Harbaugh, like the team has an affinity for him, high demand, all that good stuff. Reports came out today from 3 different sources saying Miami has not contacted John Harbaugh. Okay. What do you want me to do? I've said many times, when anything gets out, it's because somebody wants you to know. So maybe the initial story was true and this story is false. Maybe the first story was false and this one is true. We don't know because they're literally diametric. It's, oh yeah, man, Harbaugh goes way back with the family and Ross loves those guys. He tried to hire Jim back in the day. Makes sense that he want to bring him on, Michigan connection, all that stuff. And this report is, nah, no back channeling, no communications. We're people in the know. We would know if they talk. They haven't even emailed. What are you going to do? I'll say this, my personal belief. I do not believe there's been no contact. And let me say that flatly. I believe there was a phone call at least like, hey, John, where are you feeling? I think what happened is that John does not want to come to Miami. And so instead of looking like we lost out on John Harbaugh, we have to make it seem like he wasn't really a candidate here in the first place. I think John Harbaugh, if you put me, gun in my head, whatever, is going to the Giants. That's what I think. It makes the most sense to me. You get a young quarterback. You get Malik Neighbors back. Scatterboo will be back next year as well. You have a really good defense already. You have a top 10 pick. You'll get either the best receiver, best offensive lineman, whoever you want on the board. You have at least 5 years to get this right. You got a cheap Jackson Dart for the next 4 years. That makes the most sense to me. Tomorrow is a very locked in institutionally. They like structure, balance. You just got done coaching for 18 years for one team. It all makes sense for him to go to the Giants. I don't even understand why any other team would be like a real candidate. We're going to go to Cleveland? Why? Atlanta? Intriguing, but Arthur Blank, mercurial at best. I just don't. I feel like he's going to the Giants. Now, they're going to do other interviews. The Giants will be like, yo, we love this new OC. You heard it here first. I think John Harbaugh is going to the Giants. I think that's going to be decided before January is out. I think this will be a relatively quick decision. But I think maybe there was a phone call. What's your appetite looking like? And he was like, not like South Beach. And I was like, okay, cool. And now this report coming out is we didn't really want him in the first place. That was misreporting. It's trying to do a slight cleanup. Maybe to assuage Coach McDaniel a little bit. But I don't believe for a second. When you go 20 years back with a family with coaching that you have not communicated with them at all, even through a text message, like I don't buy it. This feels fraudulent to me. 3 sources confirmed. All right. You gonna put a name to those sources? Like it just feels like this is a cleanup job. That's all I'm gonna say. Again, I could be 100% wrong on this, but I do not think John Harbaugh is coming here. I've already told you I don't want him to come here. I think he's going to the Giants. Second option will be Atlanta. I think Miami is like the 4th or 5th option. I think Tennessee is even an interesting option because Cam Ward is there. But I don't think he's coming to Miami. I know some people out here like, we got to go get him. Why? I don't get it. I don't know how him and Stefanski, by not winning for like 10 years, have somehow become exponentially better prospects. I don't know what this is. I don't know what that is. The runner-up syndrome. I don't get it. People are like, we got to hire Stefanski. Why? Different rant for a different day. Different rant for a different day. All right, y'all. Y'all know what the time it is. It's time for a word from our sponsors. Now, this is going to be a little bit different today because I'm going above and beyond today for y'all. But we got to start with the top of the ad read. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing Underdog is easy. I said it all week. Pick your favorite players and decide they're going to go higher or lower in various stats. These include touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, etc. Get them right, and you could win 5,000 times your cash. 5,000. Now, as I said, I'm going above and beyond today because I'm actually going to give you guys my picks for Sunday. Now, I am not a Patriots fan. Obviously, you're watching Dolphins Daily. What are we talking about? But a couple of our rivals are still playing football. Buffalo and the Patriots. I'm going to do a Drake May breakdown only because I think Drake May has a lot of stats that we can kind of bet on. And I'll give you my opinion on why we're going to do it, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to start with 242.5 passing yards, higher or lower. I'm going higher. Drake May on the year averages 258. So he'll kind of be online. We have to keep in mind, Drake May has not been to the playoffs before. So some of this is, I'm assuming he's going to rise to the moment. I have to, because he's going to win MVP. Stafford gave it away against Atlanta. Ridiculous. But I have to believe Drake's going to rise to the occasion. I believe the way this game is going to shape out, it's going to be defensive early, adjustments, and then explosive offense later. So I'm predicting like a 27-23 type game. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored, but I think early on, it's going to be touch and go. So Jim Harbaugh is a tough guy type coach. What I've seen from the Chargers, because I live in LA, so I actually get the Chargers game here locally. I see all the games. The Chargers are a team where if you can match their physicality, then you can get them out of here. They have issues on offensive line. Guys have been hurt. Defensive line, guys have been hurt. But if you can match their physicality, then you can get them. The Patriots' biggest question mark this year is, have they played a tough schedule? Right? We saw them early beat up on Buffalo. We said, ooh, and later in the year, got beat up by Buffalo. Had a big lead, gave it up. The Patriots' running game has been hit or miss. They ran perfectly against Miami a week ago. We don't have to talk about that. So I believe this game is going to fall on Drake May. That's how I'm predicting the game. So I don't think they'll be able to run the ball against the Chargers well. I think Jim Harbaugh is like, I'm not letting you run the ball. So you got to beat me with the pass. It's Herbert versus May. I think I got a better guy than you. Let's roll. I think that's how it's going to go. I don't think either team's going to run the ball well. I think it's going to be very passing dominant. So I'm putting higher on 242.5. Passing touchdowns. Here's the thing. Drake May threw 31 touchdowns this year. Good touchdown total, right? But those touchdowns were very hit or miss. He'll have a game with 4 or 5, and then a lot of games with like 1 or 2. It's very like this. I think there'll be a lot of points scored in this game. I think Drake is likely to run a touchdown and also throw a touchdown. So I think he'll have at least 2 total touchdowns, but I don't think he's going to throw 2. I think he's going to throw 1 and maybe quarterback sneak another one. Maybe let his running backs kind of get that goal line glory. But I'm going lower on touchdowns because I don't know. I that's a tough one because guaranteeing 2 touchdown passes. Drake May is not seen as a dual threat guy, but he kind of is. He's like sneakily a dual threat guy. Like Trevor Lawrence has become that as well. So I think it's likely that in the red zone he could run a touchdown. But I do think Vrabel and Jim Harbaugh to me are both the same kind of mentality where I want to win up front. So if it comes down to inside the 5-yard line, I think Vrabel would lean towards let's try to punch it in with the big old line. I don't need Drake to throw it in there. That's my guess there. As far as 24.5 rushing yards, Drake on the year averages 28. So I'm going to go higher there because I believe in the playoffs, when you're a dual threat, which Drake is, you run more in the playoffs. We've seen it with Patrick Mahomes every year. Patrick all year just throw 1 or 2 rushes a game. He gets in the playoffs and runs for 70 yards. And like, where did all this rushing come from? It's because the game gets constricted, plays get bigger, possessions get way more important. Instead of throwing it away, instead of throwing it into weird coverage, you take off. I think the Patriots offensive line has been good-ish, but they have injuries now. So I don't think they'll protect him as well as he wants to. I think he'll have to vacate the pocket a number of times. I don't predict he's going to have a lot of long rushes. We'll get to that one in a second. But I do think he's going to be scrambling a lot. So I predict Drake May to have at least 8 rushes in this game. On average, 5 to 7 yards per rush. So it's going to be over the 24.5. Higher on the 24.5. As for the longest rush, this is the one I'm not sold on because I had higher before and I sat and thought about it. His longest rush from the year is 28 yards. So I sat and said, okay, that's a pretty long scramble. But he doesn't have a ton of long scrambles. He runs and gets out of bounds. He runs and slides. 12.5 yards is like, I'm running for more than a first down. I think the Chargers are aware of his running ability, and I do think he'll break the pocket and get some yards. Is he going to run for more than 12.5 yards on any one scramble? I can see there being a spy in there. And Drake May is fast-ish, but he's not like fast. He's fast-ish. And I was like, I can see him breaking one for 13 yards, but I feel like it's more likely he's going to break a number of like 6 to 8 yard ones. So I'm very on the fence about the 12.5 yard higher lower. I went lower just like that's a gut thing. All right. It's a gut thing. I'm saying it. And then finally, longest completion. I don't think there's going to be a lot of long passes in this game. I think this game is going to be in more of a phone booth game. A lot of long drives, 8 to 10 play drives, medium to short completions. I think teams will throw the ball deep just to kind of loosen the defense up. But the Patriots offense, I don't think their receivers are explosive like Kayshawn and Williams and Stephon Diggs. Williams can be a down the field guy. He definitely was against Baltimore, but they can't cover. It's fine. I don't see this being like a bums away type game. I see this being like a very tight end heavy. Like I see Gadsden and Hunter Henry having a really good game. A lot of 12 to 15, 20-yard completions. 35.5 feels like a lot. So I'm going to say lower on that. So recapping, 24.25 passing yards, higher. Passing touchdowns, 1.5, lower. 24.5 rushing yards, higher. 12.5 for the longest rush, lower. And longest completion, 35.5. I am going lower. Now, you do what you do, all right? Make your own predictions. Don't take mine as gospel, right? I'm just trying to help out where I can, but those are my predictions. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code FOOTBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries once you place your first $5 entry. That's promo code FOOTBALLFAN. Underdog football? Damn it. Underdog, okay? All right. See? So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and score. Fuck me. Come on. Lock in. There we go. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code FootballFans to score $75 in bonus entries once you place your first $5 entry. That's promo code FootballFan. Underdog. Make picks. Win some money. And finally, we have to not reevaluate. We have to go back into Anthony Weaver's interviewing situation. So I talked about him interviewing for Arizona, and I just didn't see anything there. That just didn't make any sense to me. Him interviewing, he also has interviews with Atlanta, but he added an interview with Baltimore upcoming. The Atlanta job, to me, him and Raheem Morris have essentially the same resume, except for Raheem Morris has won a championship being a DC for the Rams. So Anthony Weaver has a less impressive resume with essentially the same background. I don't see how Atlanta goes back to that well. I think they may like him. They may want him to be their DC if, in fact, we fire Anthony Weaver. But I don't see Atlanta being like, we just had a defensive-minded coach come in. He did okay. Didn't get over the hump. We have a real quarterback issue. We have a great offensive talent. Let's bring in a defensive coordinator who hasn't had like a top 5 defense. Doesn't make sense to me. The Ravens thing is very interesting to me because I do think the Ravens are going with a defensive coach. I have said, and you can ask my Ravens fans, for 2 months, they should go after Brian Flores. It's been, to me, there is not a better option. Robert Saleh is maybe a second option. But Brian Flores, for how he is, wanting redemption, the city, temperament, the Vikings defense has been great. To me, it's a no-brainer. But Anthony Weaver played for Baltimore. And they just hired, Zach Orr to be the defensive coordinator because he played for the team. There is some like family connection there. And I do believe Baltimore wants a good defensive-minded coach because their defense has woefully underperformed. I don't know if Todd Monken is going to stay as the OC. That's a good question. He's interviewing for jobs, so Todd may be out of there, so they may want an offensive-minded coach. But I think the identity of Baltimore as a city, they want a defensive-minded coach. Anthony Weaver, because there's nostalgia there, because he's a defensive coordinator, I think there's something there. I think he will be their third option at best, though. Obviously, Brian Flores is the number one option. I think that's a slam dunk. If he got hired tomorrow, I'd be like, yep. If Robert Saleh got hired, I'd be like, yep, makes sense to me. I think even Jeremy Mentor might be the third option, who's the DC for the Chargers. So I have Anthony Weaver as like the fourth option at best. But there is something about, hey, former player, he knows the organization, bringing him home. I get that. It's an intriguing interview, but I still don't think he gets hired by any of these places. If we let him go because the new regime comes in and does that, look out for Atlanta to hire him as the defensive coordinator. That's why I think they're bringing him in. I don't think they're bringing him in to really be their head coach. I think they're kind of saying, we can need a DC here. We need someone that team like Raheem Morris in Atlanta, and they let him go really unceremoniously. You can look at how Arthur Blank did it. Kind of dicey. The team had basically just said, we love this guy. We're going to go to war for him. And he was like, cool, he's fired. And it was really like it wasn't the best way to handle that firing. But I think to assuage those players, right, to make them feel better, maybe we can bring in a guy like Weaver who played, I think energy-wise is similar. That's where I can see this potentially ending up for him with Atlanta. But I still don't see anyone hiring Anthony Weaver to be their coach. We just didn't perform well enough on defense this year for me to merit that job. But, we'll see. It's not up to me necessarily. That's my prediction on this. If he gets more interviews, then, he's been interviewing a lot the last couple of years. And I think teams see there's something there. He's just not the guy to be the guy yet. But I think he's on the path to be the guy. I hope he's not an Eric Bieniemy situation where he never becomes the guy. But I think he's on the path to be the guy. And we will see what happens. But as always, y'all, thank you for tuning in to Dolphins Daily. We appreciate the love and support. Thank y'all for the likes and the subscribes. We'll see you next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.